People will tell me that I'm brave and that I'm going through all the. I don't know as I feel that.
Yeah?
I just feel like I'm doing what I have to do. Not not a point of being brave or heroic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this is what I have to do in order to get to the next step.
I work with an ICU nurse named Mackenzie. She's become a friend, and she's a wonderful supporter of the podcast, and a few months ago she sent me a text about her boyfriend's aunt, Denise. Denise was still processing her recent diagnosis. It was so recent, and despite the serious illness, I found, and I think you'll find, Denise to be down to earth and insightful. Her insistence that she isn't brave and just a person trying to get to the next part of her life is refreshing and somehow normalizes the experience of illness. We recorded the interview several months ago, and listening back to this made me feel relaxed and at ease. I hope you appreciate this easy conversation about a difficult experience as much as I did. Please enjoy this interview with Denise. This is Dying to Tell You. Okay, well, hi.
Hi.
How are you feeling today?
Good.
Yeah? Good. Let's start with who you are and where you are, and then we can get into a little bit of your story that really has not been very long.
No,
Your
been
diagnosis was
it's a
so
quick journey.
recent. Yeah. Yeah. All right, so tell us your name and tell us where you are.
So I'm Denise Ireland, and I'm in Locust, North Carolina, which is I think it's about 20 miles west of Charlotte, kind of give
Okay.
you an idea.
All right. I've never been, but I really want to go. I hear it's beautiful.
It is.
Have you lived there a long time?
I've lived here about 25 years.
Okay. That's a pretty long time.
Yeah.
And before that, where were you?
I was in Florida for a while.
Okay.
I'm originally from Michigan.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
You're all over the place.
I am.
All right. Well, let's start. You're feeling good today. Let's
I
start
am.
with when you got diagnosed and how. So you said this was it in January?
It was in January. I went to the emergency room for a stomach virus. I couldn't keep food down. And I guess that's a sign of heart issues
Mm,
in women. So they found that I needed to have a stent put in my heart.
okay.
I had had an open heart surgery 13 years ago, and the artery that they put in had collapsed. So that was their number one priority, ignoring my stomach and
Yeah.
taking care of the heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they get that done, and they sent me home. And 2 days later, I'm back in the hospital because I'm throwing up. And that's when they find the spots on my lung and decide I have cancer. So again, we're ignoring the stomach and we're going to the cancer.
Right.
But
Well, yeah. Yeah.
so I went through 6 weeks of radiation, 6 weeks of chemotherapy, and the cancer spread. So
Okay.
the cancer has spread to my liver, my bones, my brain, pretty much
Okay.
through my body.
Yeah. So let's go back a little bit to they saw the spots on your lungs. Was that like incidental? Did they go looking for that, or were they just doing a scan and
They
they
were just
happened to
doing a
find it?
scan and
So it's
happened to find
just
it.
they didn't actually go looking for it. They just
No, they were
found it.
not looking for it.
And then so did they saw the spots, and then did they do a biopsy of the spots?
No, because they didn't think my heart would handle it.
So, okay. So this is good information. Did they just give you chemotherapy and radiation? Just they treated you without doing a biopsy?
They did.
Okay. So did that start right away, like in that hospital stay, or did you have a little
No,
bit of time, so you went home?
I went home before it started. Yeah.
And then did you go in and talk to your oncologist then um, about the possible treatments or your
Yes.
options for treatment? And
Yes.
when you went in to talk to your oncologist, what did he or she have to
Well,
say about all of it?
he thought it was very treatable.
Okay.
Um, that the chemo and the radiation would do what it was meant to do, and that hopefully we'd just beat it that way.
And he was thinking that you could do this chemo and radiation and maybe even be cured or be done with the
Yes.
cancer
Yeah. Well,
altogether.
and then go to the immunotherapy,
Right. Okay. Okay.
and then really pretty much be done, other than getting my immunotherapy every 4 weeks for a while. But what happened was after the 6 weeks, and then they did the PET scan again. That's when they found the cancer had spread.
Okay. That must have been, I mean, I can imagine going through chemotherapy, which for most people is not an easy thing. Was it a difficult treatment
I'll
cycle
tell
for
you, it
you?
was not difficult for me at all. I enjoyed my chemotherapy.
Oh, really? You
I did.
enjoyed it?
It made me feel better. It gave me
Really?
energy,
Uh-huh.
and it allowed me to eat.
Oh, yeah.
So I always enjoyed the day I had chemotherapy,
Huh.
because
Well, that's
I
great.
like I said, I felt better and I ate. It would be a couple days after that it would be very difficult for me to eat again.
Okay.
With the radiation, my throat got burnt,
Mm-hmm.
so it was hard to swallow,
Swallow, yeah.
and nothing tasted right.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really even want to eat, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure.
So I enjoyed it.
That's so great. I mean, yeah, not many people say they enjoyed
It
their
was not a
chemotherapy,
bad
but
thing for me.
yeah,
And I've truly been blessed. I have had no pain. I mean, since any of this started, I have had no pain,
even still.
even still.
That's great.
And it was probably, well, first they found that the cancer had spread to my liver and my bones. And then they did the MRI of my head.
Mm.
And that's where they found 7 tumors in my brain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And within 2 weeks, I had a second MRI done, and they have since found 3 more tumors. And so it's they're growing pretty rapid.
Yeah, right. I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Well, and it it obviously is growing rapidly if you were getting chemotherapy for spots in your lung and then 6 weeks later you get a scan and it's spread to other places. It's obviously growing really fast. So, will you talk a little bit about, you go into the hospital thinking that you have a virus and come out thinking that you have cancer or knowing that you have cancer. Would you talk about kind of the emotions that came up for you during? I can imagine it would be terrifying and all sorts of things, but I'm curious how it was for you.
I don't know how to explain it, because it doesn't, I don't think of it like that
Mm-hmm.
a lot. The only time I get emotional is when I think of my family.
Mm,
And that's the only time.
yeah.
Other than that, I'm pretty okay.
Okay.
I believe we were all put here for a reason. And I mean, I don't know what my reason is, but I'm okay. I'm okay.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not hurting. I'm not, like I said, I'm not in any pain.
Yeah.
I'm trying to function pretty much. I get tired,
Mm-hmm.
and I've slowed down a lot. Like, I can't walk as fast as I used to, or
Mm-hmm.
that stuff frustrates you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for the most part, I think I'm doing okay.
So you're not scared. There is some frustration that comes with kind of the loss of ability to do some of the things that you were able to do.
Yes.
And it sounds like you're saying you're not really afraid. That I mean, especially since you don't have a lot of pain, um, you're not afraid of living in pain. Is there anything that you're worried about right now,
No?
other than your family, which you mentioned?
Yeah. I mean, and that's only natural, you know. I mean, I'm very close to my family.
Yeah,
I don't, you don't want to lose them.
yeah,
So I
yeah.
think that's what makes it hard when you think about that. Like, will I see him again? Then it makes it more real, I guess. So maybe I try not to think about that stuff.
Yeah. Trying to not think about all the things that we're talking about now, which
Right.
is, like leaving your family, or being away from your family, not knowing whether you're going to see them again or
Right.
how it's going to be. I guess I'm curious. So you found out that you had more cancer had spread to lots of parts of your body, and you mentioned at the beginning that you are doing more chemotherapy. Is that right?
I'm doing the immunotherapy now.
Immunotherapy. Okay.
Yes. Yes. They say that will treat the bones in the liver.
Okay.
I will start radiation in May, in a couple weeks. I had to have a mask made.
Right.
So for brain radiation, you can't move your head. So they have to make a mask.
Right.
So that takes a couple weeks when the mask gets made. If they get it done beforehand, they'll start earlier. But I'll have 10 treatments of radiation of my whole brain.
They decided on whole brain radiation.
Yeah, because there's more spots.
Okay.
Yeah, if I hadn't gotten any more tumors, they might have been able to do one. I think it's something new where it's just one treatment and they individually treat each tumor. But because mine has spread, they can't do that. They've got to do whole brain.
The whole brain.
It's the coldest hand that run down this land where the ocean lands. It's the tallest sound, the damn smallest crowd, but their hearts break loud. Far from ever feeling lost with me, I'll push you back towards land and sea. They're going down for love, and love is free.
For a lot of people, living with cancer and living with cancer treatment is difficult, but it seems to be worth it for a lot of people because they are getting something on the other side, or they're going to be able to prolong their life. How is the quality of your life as you're going through this immunotherapy and post chemotherapy? Other than being a little slow, and
Good.
you're doing okay.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the whole. Well, that's the whole point of the radiation of the brain. I'm understanding that if I didn't do that, I could start having seizures and strokes. So hopefully that's going to prevent any of that happening.
I see.
Because as long as I have a quality of life, I'm okay.
That's a very personal thing. Everybody's different when it comes to the quality of their life and what's important. What's quality for you? What do you have to be able to do? What
I have
makes
to
a
be able
good
to
day?
spend time with my family
Okay.
and just enjoy day to day. I think would probably be the best way to describe it.
Sure.
I mean, as long as I'm able to communicate with them and do things with
Gotcha.
them and enjoy what time we have, I'm good.
So being able to communicate and participate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I said, I come from a very large family. So I go to Michigan and visit my sisters up there, my nieces and my nephews. I go to Florida and visit my sister down there. I live with my daughter and son-in-law and my grandkids. So I'm with them here in North Carolina. I can't say I really have anything to complain about.
Yeah, it seems like you're doing pretty well considering. This time of year, because Mother's Day is coming up, I'm wondering, are you planning anything? Does this year seem more special than most because of what you're going through?
It probably makes me appreciate the time I have
Yeah.
more. I appreciate the time I have to spend with my daughter. My mom is gone, so
Yeah. Have you talked to your daughter about all of this and how she's feeling about it?
well, I mean, it's hard. It's hard. That's one of the hardest things because we've had to talk about hard stuff. You know, what we're going to do, when is enough. Signing a do not resuscitate order, filling out a healthcare power of attorney. That was probably the most frightening stuff because you have to face reality that it might not always be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's probably the hardest stuff you have to do.
Yeah, I wonder if you'd talk a little bit about that because, I mean, people that listen to this, I think might benefit from your understanding and why, what is it that has made you think that signing a DNR is important and that having a medical power of attorney is important, and maybe talk a little bit about why that was difficult and why
Well,
you did it anyway.
it's difficult because you're finalizing something,
Yeah.
and it's something that you believe in. I don't want to live on a respirator, and I don't want to live as a vegetable.
Right.
So you have to face reality and say, if it comes to this, what do I want you to do? And it might not be the decision. Again, my daughter is my healthcare power of attorney, so bless her heart, because she's got to do what I want her to do and not necessarily what she wants to do.
Yeah.
So it makes it hard. I mean, I think she understands. And I think she would probably feel the same way if it were her talking to one of her sons.
Yeah.
But until you're in that position, you don't know what you'll do.
That's right. It's really true. And I think one of the things that's really important about filling out those forms ahead of time and talking about it ahead of time is that if you don't, and she's put in that position, making a decision in that without, one, knowing what you want for yourself, and two, without having thought about it ahead of time, it's a terrible time to try to make a decision in a moment of crisis. I think it's really important to have those conversations, even though it's really hard.
And I've seen it firsthand with my sister and her partner. Both had the do not resuscitate. Both had a health care power of attorney. One of them got terminally ill, and at that point, even then, even in that time, it was like, well, maybe you could maybe you could do this one time. Maybe I would let you do it one time. And it wasn't until I was there, and she was a chaplain at a hospital. So it wasn't until I was there with them, and she said that, and the doctor said, you don't understand. It's not like that. It's not like we can just try it one time and you're going to be okay.
Right.
So, watching that was like, oh, I wouldn't want my daughter to have to make that decision. I mean, that's a decision I have to make for myself.
Right. Right. And that's really the only way to do it, is to do it now and make sure that people know about it. So you put it in writing and you let people know.
Yeah.
because in the moment you can't tell them yes or no because you're the one having your heart stop. So, and I mean, just for the benefit of people out there, and I'm going to say this, and I don't mean, I hope it doesn't hurt your feelings, but if Denise, you are so sick and you're in the hospital and you're so sick that you come to the end of your life because of your cancer, if they do CPR on you and put you on a ventilator, you still have the cancer.
Exactly.
It's not going to fix anything. All it will do is prolong the dying process, which, for some people, I guess they don't mind living on a ventilator. They don't mind living in a hospital for a time. That's fine. But you have been very clear that you don't want that. And I think it's brave, and I think it's important for people to have that conversation, even when it's difficult.
Yeah. I mean, I wish you could do it when you weren't sick.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish you would think about it when you're not sick, because I think you would be a little more level-headed. Do I want to say? I mean, I think I'm pretty level-headed, but I think in the heat of the moment, you feel like, oh my God, I got to get this done now. And I don't like that rushed feeling.
Yeah.
So that's probably the only, not talking about it prior to, and just having to do it all because this just happened to hit all at once. But other than that, like I said, I'm trying to take it as best I can.
It seems like you're doing a really good job. I like that public service announcement. So if you're not sick and you haven't done your medical power of attorney, now's the time to do it. You can think more clearly about it.
You do. I mean, it only makes sense, really.
Yeah, it really does.
But we all put that stuff off.
Yeah,
I don't think it's any
true.
one person. I think we all do that.
No, of course. Except those of us that work in the healthcare field. I definitely have a medical power of attorney.
Okay.
But I mean, I would say you don't need a medical power of attorney until you need it, and then it's too late. So now's the time to do it. So everybody needs one, and everyone needs one now.
Dreamed of a family. Oh, we got it. We prayed that we make it out. Sometimes barely. Walking through the valley, through every high and low. I promised you my heart that we could make it grow. I am here to say I'll be fighting for you.
I guess let's talk a little bit about what you're hoping for right now. What do you hope for in the next weeks, months?
I guess my truest hope is that the radiation and the immunotherapy works, and I get a couple more years. I'll take a couple more years.
Yeah, of course. Especially if they're good years.
Yeah, versus 3 to 6 months.
Is that what you've been told? I was going to ask. Is that what you've been told?
That's
about?
what I've been told if I don't do treatment. So hopefully with treatment, they're hoping for maybe 2 to 5 years, which, I'll take that.
Absolutely. If you're faced with the choice between 3 months and 2 to 5 years. Yeah. All right. Well, let's say you get 2 years. How do you want to spend your time? I know you said you want to spend time with your family. Is there anything like specific that you think is important for you to do?
Well, we've talked. I have 2 grandsons that will be graduating college within the next 2 years. Our goal is, as a family, to go to Ireland.
Nice.
Once they graduate. So, it's something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Someplace I've
Yeah.
always wanted to go and would probably never go on my own, so it would be fun. So that's kind of my biggest goal.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds really nice. You've given some thought, you said earlier, to when is enough, and I'm guessing you mean when is the quality of your life to a point where it's not worth prolonging, and that you would be done doing treatment and things like that.
Right.
Would you tell us a little bit about how you're thinking about that?
It's kind of hard to say because
Yeah.
when I was going through the 6 weeks of chemo and radiation, although that doesn't seem like a long time, it gets old. When you're doing that every single day, and that's what your life is. That is really interfering with your quality of life. And again, doctors' offices and doctors' visits, they're not always like on time. So,
Yes, that is very true.
I mean, I went for my immunotherapy a week ago on a Monday, and I go in, and normally they take my blood and they test my blood, and you go back in and they start the immunotherapy. Well, first I needed potassium, and they had to give me a bag of that, so that took an hour, and then it took 2.5 hours for them to get my blood results back. Well, to me, that's ludicrous. You know, I know I'm sick, and you might not think I have a life, but I do have a life,
Right.
and I do have things I like to do. So when it starts interfering with you being able to do what you want to do or what you can do, it gets frustrating, and you get to the point where you say, I don't know, is this worth it? You know, that's when I found out about my brain cancer. My first question was, I mean, really, what's the point? You know, you found it almost throughout my entire body. I just don't get what the point is, why you're still looking at places.
Yeah. 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 Can we talk a little bit more about this? Because I want to point out something that I think you were saying, which is, when, especially for somebody like you, it seems like you, who, it doesn't seem like you've been like interacting with the medical system a ton before all this. Is that right?
Right.
So when somebody has a new introduction into the medical system and you're immersed, all of a sudden you went in for a stomach virus and you came out with cancer, and 2 weeks later or whatever, you're doing chemotherapy and radiation, and you've gone from being completely independent and autonomous Denise Ireland to all of the sudden being patient Denise Ireland. And you go from being a person to a patient, and sometimes that huge switch in autonomy and being able to do whatever you want whenever you want, and then being kind of beholden to showing up at doctor's appointments and infusions and all of that, is a big shock, and you lose a big part of who you have been. One, like you said, it's super frustrating, and two, I have heard people say very much the same thing. Is this worth it? And that is really kind of the sticking point for a lot of people. Is it worth it? And the problem is it's a gamble because what you're doing is you're doing all this in hopes that there's something on the other side, and that you're getting good treatment and it's going to be effective for the chemotherapy. It's a gamble. You don't know. And
Right.
In your case, you did all that. You showed up, you did your best, you did your part, and the cancer spread. Now you're doing it more, and it's probably not at least right now, is not as intense. But I know that when you start the radiation therapy, it's going to be, more. Yeah, I mean, I guess you just have to be thinking about and constantly evaluating, is this worth it? And the hope is always that you get something on the other side
Right.
that's worth it. I don't. That's not really a question, but I guess I don't know. Do you have thoughts about that?
It's hard. It would be hard to tell someone else what to do because I mean, I don't know what my outcome is yet, so I can't say, "Oh, this worked for me," type thing. I'm trying it in the hopes that it's gonna work for me,
Yeah.
but it's just hard. But I will say, like at my immunotherapies, you meet some lovely people. That they're going through the same thing you are. There are people that have it way, way worse. I mean, I've seen people that have it way, way worse. And so I don't want to ever take what I have like it is more important than someone else because there are people out there that need way more than me.
Sure.
I'm like I said, I'm still able to get around into managing, and I've been blessed with a family that is helpful. It's probably just recently that the restrictions are starting to kick in a little bit because of the brain cancer. I don't know how much longer I'll be able to drive,
Mm.
so that's a little more frustrating. But again, it's not like I'm laying in a bed. I'm able
Sure.
to get up every day and I'm able to get out and do stuff.
You're right. There are people out there who have, terrible symptoms, who live in pain, who, have to use opioids all the time, who have terrible side effects from their chemotherapy. Yeah, you're right. There are a lot of people out there, and you have family that's there supporting you, and that's really, I mean, that's very helpful. And it's still hard. I don't want you to like downplay
Oh no, it
the
is.
reality that it's hard.
It is.
Yeah.
But again, yeah, I think not thinking about it is kind of the best thing you can do. Just really trying to continue living your life like you did before.
So true. You probably haven't listened to the other interviews that I've done, but there was a lady named Nancy who had metastatic pancreatic cancer that had spread, and she talked about beating her cancer. And the way she beat her cancer was just like you're saying. She just lived her life. She lived her life the way she wanted to live it. She knew that she couldn't cure her cancer, but the way to beat the cancer, the way to cope with all of it, was to simply live her life the way that she wanted to.
Right.
It doesn't have to be a big thing. A trip to Ireland is good, but also getting up, getting out of bed, and doing the things that you usually like to do.
Yeah. I mean, sitting on a beautiful day outside to read a book, it, to me is
Yeah.
enjoyable.
So great.
Golden days drifting far away. Light is leaving town. Colors fade, but I'm thinking we stay just for a little while. Let's lose track of time. Darling, stay for a little longer while I hold your time. We'll wait, so just rest your head.
Well, I'm gonna turn a little bit to after all of the treatment and everything. Let's say you get a good response from your immunotherapy, your radiation, and we're 5 years down the road, and you're coming to the end of your life. I mean, at some point
Right.
that's going to happen. Do you have thoughts about how you hope that will be?
I kind of just hope I go to sleep.
Yeah, yeah,
That'd be the nicest way.
yeah. Anything like any particular place you want to be or people you want around?
No,
Doesn't
uh,
matter.
no, because
Yeah.
wherever I'll be with people that I love, so it'll be fine.
You have faith that wherever you are, people you love will be around.
Yes, I do.
Do you have thoughts about? I mean, we haven't really talked about. Are you a religious person, or do you have thoughts about the afterlife, or what
Um,
comes next, or how it'll be?
well, I mean, I'll be cremated.
Okay.
Um, my daughter doesn't like the thought of someone being buried in the ground. So I think we're gonna put me into parting stones.
Okay.
My sister did that with my sister-in-law, and they're beautiful, and we each have one.
Okay.
So I was telling them we have to find a way to mark them so that our nieces and nephews will know who's who.
Yeah, you don't want to get your relatives confused.
They don't get us mixed up.
Do you think you mentioned before about you don't know if you'll see your kids again? Do you think after you die that you'll see people that have gone before you?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
How do you think that'll be, or do you know? Do you have hopes or thoughts or?
I think it'll be wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad has been gone longer than I knew him.
Oh wow.
So it's been a long, long time. And, I have my mom and two brothers and a sister. And yeah, it'll be wonderful to see them again. And I believe they see us.
That they're watching you now or here
Yeah,
with you in
yeah,
some way.
I do.
Is that comforting?
It is sometimes, yes.
Sometimes.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say probably most of the time.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Sure.
You know, it's funny as you get older, you think about how when you were younger and you were selfish and you were probably spoiled, is the only thing that comes to my mind. But I think about that and I think, God, I was a terrible, I was a terrible child. I don't think I really was, but in actuality, I could have been better. I could have been a better daughter.
Uh huh.
So, you think about little stuff like that.
Uh huh.
It's crazy. I wish, like when my mom was here, I wish I would have told her how much she meant to me. And I don't even know if when she was here that I really thought of it like that. It wasn't until after she was gone that I realized, man, I just should have said so much and done so much more that I didn't do. I think that helps you grow as a person and you try to do better. Like I'm trying to do better with letting my daughter and my grandchildren know that I love them. I think we take a lot of stuff for granted. And I think everybody does that.
Yeah. I think you're probably right. What do you think it is that keeps people, aside from taking things for granted and just kind of assuming that they know? What do you think it is that keeps people from saying that to their loved ones? How much they mean to them and stuff like that?
I don't know. I don't know what makes them stop and not say it because it's so important. And I always felt loved by my parents. But I don't know as they ever like told us that. So, yeah, I don't know.
Do you tell your kids?
I do. I do.
Yeah. My dad talks about that sometimes with his dad, and I think that he knew that his dad loved him, and it was something that he didn't say very often. But I know that my dad always told me. Every time we left the room, almost he would tell
Yeah.
me that he loved me, and I do the same with my child. And I think it's I guess kind of one of those things, kind of what you're talking about is my dad noticed it with his dad, and he tried to do it a little better.
Do you think it's a generational thing?
I don't know. I mean,
I
I
mean,
think that there
maybe
were probably lots of people that said "I love you."
they didn't talk about it so much then.
Yeah,
I
maybe that's true. Maybe
don't
that is
know.
true. But I'm hoping that each generation learns a little bit more from the previous generation.
Right.
Just like I hope that my kid sees the flaws that I have and is a little bit better than me, and that if I have grandchildren, they'll be a little bit better too. I hope that everybody is just learning a little bit from the experiences of the people that have come before. Just part of the reason for doing this podcast is that Denise, you're going through this. This is something that I mean, I don't know what's gonna be my illness, but at some point I'm gonna get ill, and then I'm gonna have the benefit of listening to you talk about how you handled this illness, and I could take a little bit of wisdom from you. It's changed the way that I practice as a chaplain in the hospital for sure. So hopefully I'm a better person for having listened to all these people talk about their illnesses.
Yeah.
And hopefully I hope that generations of people are better too.
People will tell me that I'm brave and that I'm going through all this. I don't know as I feel that.
Yeah?
I just feel like I'm doing what I have to do. Not a point of being brave or heroic. It's just, this is what I have to do in order to get to the next step.
I think most people who are brave, people who are heroes, don't set out to be brave or heroes. I think they just do what they know needs to be done next. So you may not feel it, but
Yeah, you just don't. I don't think any of the people that are in my immunotherapy feel that way either. They just are people trying to get to the next phase in their life and enjoying what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing how friendly they all are and how comforting they can be. Really, complete strangers that you never met before.
I see people in the hospital on maybe the worst day of their entire lives, and they just are most of the time so great. They just show up and are wonderful to people, and they have nice things to say, and they're very grateful. And so it sounds like you're having a very similar experience, that you're seeing people in a really tough situation,
Yeah.
and they just are good people. They're just good to each other.
Yeah. And they didn't do anything to deserve to be where they're at.
Right.
I don't think.
Well, I don't think that's how it works.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just do what you got to do.
Yeah. All right. I've got a couple more questions for you if you're up for it. You doing okay?
Yep.
Okay. This is something that we do in kind of end of life care. It's called an ethical will, and it's a document that somebody would make that kind of says, these are my values and these are the life lessons that I've learned that I want to pass on to generations. I wonder if there are a couple of things that you believe really deeply, or a couple of life lessons that you've taken with you that you would want to pass on to your grandchildren that maybe haven't heard it yet, or even great-grandchildren that aren't even born yet? Is there anything that comes to mind when I talk about that kind of thing?
Not really. Kindness.
Okay.
I hope they show kindness. Sympathy towards other people.
Mm-hmm.
Be compassionate and understanding.
Where did you learn those things from?
You know, it's funny. Some of that I've learned from my grandchildren. So you can learn from anybody.
Of course.
But yeah, it's amazing. My oldest grandson is just amazing to me. He's very compassionate and loving, and I don't know how he is, but he just is. And more people should be like that. The world would be a better place.
It's really nice to hear. It makes me hopeful for the world. You know, we read the news or watch the news, and it's not great out there.
No, it's
but
not.
On an individual level, people are mostly want to be kind to each other, and yeah, I hope that people learn that too, to be kind and compassionate to each other.
It's important for your children and their children.
Yeah.
I think.
I agree. So, last question. How do you want to be remembered?
I want, from my heart, that I did everything from my heart. Yes, would be best.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Anything else you want to say? Anything that any experience that you've had from this that you think people would need to know about that we haven't talked about or that we haven't asked about?
Not that I can think of. Right. I just wish everybody the best. I hope their journey is something they can live with. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you do have to live with it. You have to accept it and you have to live with it. So hopefully their journey is not something that is going to break them.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope so too. Okay. Well, I think we did it, Denise.
Okay. It was nice meeting you.
Yeah. Nice to meet you as well.
Perfect. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks so much, Denise.
Have a good day.
Thank you, Denise, for being so forthright and open. From my perspective, you really are doing all of this from your heart. A few months after our interview, Mackenzie sent me a message saying that Denise's cancer had continued to progress through all of her treatment, and it seemed that she had come to the end of her cancer treatment. She told me that Denise had gone home with hospice. On August 4th, Mackenzie and I were working at the hospital, and she told me that Denise had died that day. Of course, I'm interviewing people with terminal illness, so I know that eventually they will die. But it still makes me sad every time. This week, I called Denise's daughter, Megan. She was, of course, still sad. She described that Denise's last few days were difficult for everyone, which makes the grieving that much more difficult. But Megan said that Denise had listened to the podcast and that she would still want the podcast to be published. So here we are. I asked Megan if we could honor Denise in some way, and she sent me Denise's obituary, which Denise wrote with the help of her sister. I think it's beautiful and will be a lovely way to end this episode and honor Denise. Here it is. If you remember anything of me after I leave this world, remember that I loved even when it was foolish, that I cared even when it was unwanted. When my body is gone, remember my heart. Denise Louise Ireland, age 68, of Locust, North Carolina, passed away at home on August 4th, 2024, after an 8-month battle with cancer. She was born in Tecumseh, Michigan, on January 21st, 1956, to Elmer and Edith Ireland. She married Jim Supples October 21st, 1995, and he preceded her in death on March 5th, 2020. Denise grew up in Hudson, Michigan, and graduated from Hudson High School in 1974. After graduation, she worked at United Way in Washington, D.C. for 2 years before embarking on a 40-year career working in accounting for various car dealerships in Michigan, Florida, and North Carolina, followed by a short stint as a bank teller. Denise was generous of heart, adored her grandchildren, and loved her family deeply. In retirement, she enjoyed spending time in Florida and Michigan visiting her relatives. Her hobbies included reading, knitting, spending time with family, coloring on her iPad, going to the theater, and following the adventures of her grandchildren, nieces, and nephews. Surviving Denise is her daughter and son-in-law, Megan and Eric Smydra of Locust, North Carolina, grandchildren Easton and Cooper Smydra of North Carolina, siblings Ray Ireland of Adrian, Patricia Johnson of Jacksonville, Florida, Pam Smoke of Hudson, Michigan, Barbara Ireland of Hudson, Michigan, and Linda Grant of Reston, Virginia. 17 nieces and nephews, 31 great-nieces and nephews, and 7 great-great-nieces and nephews, and her good friends Tom and Kathy Sawyer of Indian Land, South Carolina. Denise is preceded in death by her husband, parents, sister Sandy Taylor, brothers Terry Ireland and Jeff Ireland, a niece, Melissa Stuyvesant, a nephew, Desmond Ireland, brother-in-law Maurice Moose Johnson, and sister-in-law Bev Falk. Cremation has taken place, and a small private celebration of her life is being planned at a later date. If so inclined, remembrance of Denise can be made by contributing to the Hudson Carnegie District Library or the Young Adventurers Scholarship Program, with checks made out to the Hudson Foundation. Denise leaves you with these words from Donna Ashworth. If you wish to love me still, when I leave, you can. By loving life, by loving all that is life, by loving yourself most of all, the way that I have loved you. For now that I cannot, you must. If you enjoy the Dying to Tell You podcast and believe in our mission to demystify death and dying and to help people live more thoughtful and intentional lives, here are some ways that you can join us in that mission. Subscribe and leave us a good review on your preferred podcast platform. Follow us on social media, all of which can be found on our website, dttypodcast.com. And thirdly, word of mouth is one of the most powerful ways of spreading the message. Text the link to this episode to 1 or 2 people that you love. And thank you for considering joining us on this mission. As always, if you or a loved one is living with a life-limiting illness and would be willing to share your story, please contact us on our website, dttypodcast.com, and click the Share Your Story link. This is Dying to Tell You.